Hey ladies, I'm Aisha Watkins, founder of Women of Project Management, and this is the Women of Project Management podcast, where I have candid conversations with all my favorite women inside the Women of Project Management membership in audio. Please don't forget to subscribe and review everywhere you listen to podcasts. I'm Aisha Watkins, founder of Women of Project Management. Today, we're going to be talking to Katrena Mayes. Katrena is going to be talking to us about what happens when you have to pivot in your career or transition. So before we get started, we're talking to Katrena. I'm going to give you her amazing background so you understand her perspective from her career and her business. Katrena Mayes is a human resources professional with over 20 years of experience with expertise in employee relations, facilitation, career development, organizational change, and talent management. She has worked as an area vice president in human resources for TD Auto Finance. She has also sown into other professionals as an adjunct professor of human resources management at DeVry University. And most recently, she has served as the market human resource manager for retail giant Walmart. In this second half of her career journey, Katrena has returned to her first love of mental wellness with a focus on grief. Katrena is an advanced certified grief recovery specialist, coach, author, and international speaker from Dallas, Texas. Her educational background includes a master's of business administration with a human resource focus and a master of art degree in counseling psychology. Katrena offers coaching and grief support, which includes life and career transition guidance to individuals and businesses who are faced with voluntary or involuntary changes in the workplace. Additionally, with her expertise in grief work, she helps organizations create or modify bereavement policies to ensure a successful re-entry after experiencing loss. Welcome, Katrena. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really glad to have you here because I think with today's time and COVID, it's so important to have a plan to transition and to have to pivot. So I'm really excited for our conversation today. So before we even get into that, tell us a little bit. I know you have the first half of your career, the second half of your career. A lot of people can relate to that of
Yes.
going into a second phase of their career, but tell us about the first career and just a little bit about your career journey.
So initially, I started out in mental health and transitioned over into HR. So during HR, I started out as an intern. Started out as an intern while pursuing my MBA. Moved into recruitment and then more generalist responsibilities, more employee relations, talent management, change management, just a little bit of everything initially. And so mental health, transitioning over from mental health to HR, it's different, but it's the same. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's utilizing those same skills from mental health in just a different environment. And so HR, from the HR development side, it's more about people development. So it's all things people, which is, synonymous with mental health as well.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started. Have a passion for both mental health as well as HR. And again, using those same skills in those environments was definitely prepared me for what was next.
Yeah.
And so from the second piece of it, the one thing about it, Angel, about being in HR is that you see everything. You see everything from growth to trauma to, changes in family dynamics to
Mm-hmm.
loss. And
Mm-hmm.
so in the second half, what I've realized is that people don't have tools. We have the whole COVID environment. And so a lot of times people don't have the tools and resources to
Mm-hmm.
pivot. We know what to do when everything is great, when we are moving, when we are successful, when we are at the mountaintops of our careers. But what happens when you're at the valleys?
Mm-hmm.
Who's there to help you through those valley moments? And so
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the things that kind of moved me into helping people, providing them with guidance and step-by-step resources on how to pivot and what you can do to kind of get out of those valley moments.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like I've had all these light bulb moments while I've been talking to all these amazing women like you. But it does make sense. It makes sense that human resources and everything that you do see, which is totally different from the perspective of someone maybe, well, anyone outside of human resources, because we're just not privy to that perspective. But that's where we go when, we're in corporate America, and maybe we did have a death in the family, or we're changing from one job to another, or we're entering to a new company. You guys are the people who we see who, make sure everything is set up, or that we're asking those questions. But then you also see the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that makes sense that, that goes with it of, how to transition, or even that grief, because you're able to see both sides of it. So I love that, because I never really thought of it like that before, but I guess it makes all the sense in the world to me now. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that. So, I know that your business isn't, brand new. You've been doing this, you've been, you know, just kind of getting your craft, for years now. But I guess right now it's a lot. It has to be a lot for you with COVID. I mean, it's already a lot, period, right? Just life and transitions, and when
Right.
people are going through that. But now it's like one of those times, at least in our lifetime, where the whole world's going through everything at one time, And so even
Exactly.
if you weren't impacted, and, for me, for example, I do have a close friend who at the beginning of COVID passed away. And it's so funny because that person worked at DeVry, totally different state, but
Oh, wow.
passed away from it. Yeah. And this is in the beginning when people didn't really understand. They didn't think younger people passed away. They thought it was older people. They didn't know. They just didn't know. But we're all still operating. We're all in this strange space where we're still operating like nothing's going on. Like we're just trying to push forward, like everything is normal in the middle of a pandemic. So I know that, you started doing this before there was a COVID, but how do you, with your business, like, is that part of the reason that you started your business, besides the COVID, just helping people navigate? But, what was the reason behind of, opening up and starting your business and really putting your heart into that?
So I will share with you just a couple of things. So what really moved me was the loss of my daughter at 32 weeks. And it's been 12 years, and then I lost my mother as well. And so part of that is when you are in those moments, you don't really know. You don't know how you're going to come out. You can't see. You don't know what the next looks like. And so when you finally go through programs, or you find tools and resources, you realize that it's a lot of people out there that need the same thing. And so I have helped numerous of people over the years. And so even from executives, even if I needed to make referrals if necessary, because sometimes it gets to a point where it's not just a simple step-by-step or resource. Sometimes people need more clinical, more medication management, because grief and loss sometimes is cumulative. It's not just that one thing or that one issue. When things happen, it's like it's historical or something. You go back and retrieve every loss or every experience. And so part of what I'm doing now is not just because of COVID, but I will share with you the irony of it is that I was so pressed in 2019 to tell my story, and I co-authored a book along with some other ladies, and managed to write the book, get certified, and take what I've already studied years and years and years and move it forward. And so 2020 was that year, but never in a million years did I see COVID back. Back in 2019, there was no idea. I never saw COVID coming. And so what I will tell you, Asia, is that 2020 has given grief a voice. It has shown up in all areas of life, more so than ever before. And it's not a new concept. It's not that grief or loss or navigating through your career is something new. It's always been around. But again, we like the bells and whistles of life. And so we are trained to do, here's what you do to acquire a house. Here's what you do to buy a car. but no one tells you, hey, there's going to come a day where there's a possibility that you will lose.
Yeah.
And how do you navigate through that?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you can do? And so long before then, I researched the Grief Recovery Institute for years before proceeding to go through the certification piece. Yeah. And so it has definitely shown me, I thought I had grown. I thought I was over it. You think you're doing well, even in your career, you think you're fine, you get that new role, you get that new position, and sometimes you still feel different. And 80% of what we deal with day in and day out, it can be traced back to grief.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
I love that. I mean, I know a lot of people would, I know everyone will, they get it. They understand that, but I don't think we all get it to the level that you said. We don't, sometimes we're just going through life and, something happens and, there's a death, whatever the case is, and you don't realize how much you didn't process it until, maybe it builds up until you can't hide it anymore, or it comes out and you think it's one thing and it's something else. So, I think it's important. I know multiple people now who are they're grieving over different family members and they're still trying to navigate life. It's interesting that you say that because 2 years ago, I had just started, a new job. And I was like maybe a month or so in, you're kind of like, okay, I want to put my best foot forward in this role. And then about a month into the role, I got a call that my nephew had passed away at 2. And so it's interesting enough that we're talking this week because this is the anniversary. We just celebrated it 2 years ago. But honestly, it wasn't until this weekend that I even realized of how much I had not processed it and how much I was still grieving with not even knowing. And sometimes I think when you're dealing with so much stuff, and maybe if levels at 6 or 7, of stress, sometimes you can suppress that and you don't even know you're hiding it from yourself. But I think sometimes when things start rising, that stress starts rising and we're in the middle of a pandemic and then you're dealing with so many things at one time, then everything is at a level 10, And I think this was probably the first time this weekend that I realized that you didn't even grieve properly, because you're trying to be strong for everyone else, but then you're still trying to navigate. So you do see the world differently, and you do either you're trying to navigate, or you don't even realize that you have to navigate in the emotional things that you're thinking, that's going on in the back of your head. So to be able to have someone, like you, that's already a professional to help someone grieve, you've been there with loss, I think that's a game changer. That can be that's definitely life changing for someone to understand, because some people can go a lifetime without ever just never dealing with it.
And some people do, right? Yeah. And some people do go a lifetime, because we keep busy. Yeah. We call them short-term energy releasing behaviors. So we keep going, we go get a second job, we start to eat more, we go out and do retail therapy, and so we make huge decisions. And so there are things that we do to overcompensate for that mental numbness that we feel. And unfortunately, you don't know when and if, it surfaces, you don't know when or if it goes away. So it's less about closure and more about getting complete. Yeah. And I think that's the difference as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that. So what does it look like if someone comes to you? I know you do one-on-one coaching. I know you do group coaching. And what does that look like if someone comes to you? How do they find you? And then when they sign up with you, what does that look like? Because I'm sure that there's someone who's watching this and they're grieving over something or suppressing something, but they don't even know maybe what that looks like for them to even begin that process. So how would they find you? And then what would it look like?
So the first thing that I do is I schedule a discovery call, is what I call it. It's a discovery call. And more so to kind of walk you through more.
To listen to the rest of this conversation, join us inside the Women of Project Management membership at womenofpm.com. Thanks for listening.